Welcome to the Cloud Native Coffee Hour. I am your host, Dan Mikita, and these are my co-hosts, Dan McCracken and Sam Delamarter. Thank you for joining us. So today's topic is going to be KubeCon. We just got back from KubeCon. It was awesome. Got something in my eye. It was awesome. We were there. Lots of content to cover. And before we jump into that, how are you guys doing today?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's been a very busy day, actually. Very busy. Nonstop. I've been on the phone all day, but that's okay. All good things. I came back with so much information in my brain. I just have been super efficient.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Doing great. Like you said, back to the fun part of work.
Getting things done. Yes. Okay, so what did you guys think of KubeCon? High level, before we jump into like specifics, what did you think of the event?
I loved the event. It was definitely the most it stands out. It stands out in terms of just KubeCons in general that I've been to. It was different, but it was different in a good way. And it may be, and I think we'll get into this today, it may be just my perspective on Kubernetes has changed and the cloud native landscape. It could be that. Or it could be that there weren't as many people as normal. And the normal faces that you see weren't there. Or a lot of the normal faces weren't there. And so that was kind of interesting too. So Sam, I don't know what the hot take is.
Right, yeah, the hot take. It definitely seemed like they were kind of pushing the next generation, which it was weird to like not have some of those faces there. But it was cool that they were being so welcoming, not only from an organization standpoint, but like getting the community involved. I feel like there was a heavy push on that to like make it easier to contribute and join and get involved, which was great to see.
For sure. That was definitely the overriding theme of this one. The old guard is moving on. We need new blood. Here's how you can get involved. That was really cool. I liked that, and it was actually very motivating because I think we've been a part of the community for a long time, but we're more of an end user. So I don't think, I was kind of motivated to get involved in the code. I'm kind of excited about it, actually.
Exactly.
Yeah, one of the cooler things that I didn't know about until the end of the conference was that bug bash.
Mm-hmm.
Like they had stations set up, they had people there to help you make your first commits, and like you were fixing real bugs. So that was super cool to see, and hopefully they can do more stuff like that going forward.
For sure. Okay, let's see. Do we want to just dive right into it? I think we should. I think we should be efficient with this stream. God, it's been a long day. I want to be efficient. So let's. I don't really have I don't have a prepared script. We never do. This is raw every time. But I have lots of notes from KubeCon. So, and I think, I got the iPad Mini, the new one. It was really good.
It's my OG gangster book.
So, first thing, during day one of the keynote, they announced a lot of really good stuff. I think they peaked pretty early with the content. So first things first, I think one of the biggest announcements, at least that I enjoyed, was that they have a new cert called the Cloud Native Associate. And they rolled out a beta of that. Correct?
Correct. McCracken and I both were lucky enough to get in the beta. I think there was only like 400 people taking it, so we're both taking it tomorrow. And we'll give some feedback to the CNCF and let them know what we thought of the exam as a whole. It's supposed to be more of an entry-level thing, which is very cool because they have always said, and they reiterated, like the CKA, CKS, CKAD, they're all professional certifications. So for someone that's trying to get in the door and wants to attest to the fact that they do have some knowledge, it's a really great starting place. Hopefully, we'll see after we take the exam, but it should be better for someone just getting in, or they even were pushing for people that are management or marketing that need to have an idea of what the CNCF environment looks like, but not necessarily the tech skills.
100%. And yeah, if anybody watches this from CNCF, we will not be talking to each other in between the exam. We've already talked about that. I scheduled first, and then Sam scheduled his before me. I'm super annoyed because we'll get into this in a future stream, but Sam was trailblazer at DevsOperative and took all of the certification tests before Mikita or I ever tried it. Sam tried, bailed, got back on the horse.
Pretty hard.
He did fail hard, but I would say you propelled us into greatness. You really helped us pass and motivated us to pass. That being said, we're not going to talk. You're going to be the first one to take it, but we're taking it within hours. And hopefully they tell us our score so I know if I beat you or not, because I'm very competitive, as you know.
Didn't you say you have to get 100% on this thing to pass
it? No. There is a TBD passing. You're just going to know pass fail.
That's what I said, but yeah, that was a joke.
The beta is a swath of all the questions that they have prepared. So we're going to get asked 125 questions, I think, in
wow.
Yeah, in 2 hours. So we'll have 120 minutes for 125 questions. The actual cert, multiple choice, no resources. So this is just like taking the ACT or whatever. If that's a thing. Am I dating myself with the ACT? People still take that?
I think so.
But they don't anymore. To answer
they don't anymore.
Not in Michigan.
Great. At any rate, the people after the beta will only have to take 60 questions, and they'll have to pass it with a TBD. They don't know. So if we do really good, it's gonna make people have to have higher. And if we do really poor, we can sandbag it a little bit so that people in the future don't have to do as well. I don't know.
And if the CNCF is watching, we're not going to do that.
We're not going to do that. We're just going to try to beat each other and give it our best shot and open and honest feedback. The last thing I want to say about it is I'm really excited to take it. The breadth that you have to know.
Yeah.
It seems kind of like a lot. I'm looking forward to how they're going to ask these questions. Hopefully they're not too hard or too easy. I don't know what to expect, but it seems like quite a bit of breadth. You mentioned, it's like it's something to get in the door. You need to know a lot of stuff. If you need to know a lot of stuff from breadth, we shall see. Excited.
Yep, we'll put the link somewhere to the exam details. Probably put that in chat and then in the YouTube description.
I am picking up a little bit of mic static from someone.
Well, it's not me. I can guarantee it.
It's definitely not me.
It's probably your own mic, Mikita.
Probably. That makes sense. I have my monitor running. Real quick. Are we planning on talking about your experiences on the stream at all? Or is that something we're still kind of looking into?
I'm a little hesitant.
Yeah.
A little hesitant until I see anything come back from the CNCF. Certainly it would be below board to talk about anything before the real thing comes out. And even then, it's I'm pretty sure there's kind of a code of conduct where it's
Sure.
There is. And, attending the marketing meetings, someone has asked that question before, is it okay to talk about your journey to those certifications? And they were all for it, but it does seem almost contradictory to the terms and conditions of the exam.
Yeah.
So finding I'm not sure what all we can talk about, but I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit at some point at least.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So some other things that came up during the opening keynote, openssf.org. I can't speak to it too much. I remember when they were giving the presentation, I thought it was very interesting. It has to do with an open security standards, I believe, surrounding cloud native, surrounding Kubernetes. And it looked very promising, so I wrote that down. Anything you guys have to say about that one?
I wrote it down so that I could not be so stupid about it later. And I don't know it yet. So, but that's my understanding as well.
Yeah, basically same
Uh,
here. I would just echo that like security in general was a huge track at the conference, um, which was very interesting to see. Lots to learn.
Cartographers Working Group. That was cool. I was pretty excited about that.
Yep, and that's about the
Go
maturity
ahead.
model and the tech radar.
Correct. Yeah, it was the group putting together, the tech radar and putting together a lot of the documents that our company uses a lot for reference. Sorry. Okay. Sorry about that. New Phippy book. There is a gender neutral lobster now as a part of the Phippy clan. I have Phippy right here. Here's Phippy. I don't have her pals at all, but she's got two new ones: a gender neutral lobster and someone else.
Yeah, and nobody cares. Yeah, it was like a mole or something. It's like we already got the gopher. Is it a gopher and a mole? I forget the other one because the lobster kind of stole the show. It's like green and blue. I like it. I like lobsters.
Yeah, so that was cool. Excited to see that theme kind of taking off. I love the marketing of it. The CNCF technology radar also got updated a bit, so that was cool to see. You can get to the technology radar at radar.cncf.io if you're interested. Okay. Those are like the main highlights I have from the keynote. The rest of my stuff kind of goes into more of the talks.
I've got a couple.
What do you got?
Got a couple hot takes here.
Yeah.
MCS I wrote down here. That's multi-cluster support. And I've got something about multi-cluster, and there's import export, and there's like multi-cluster was another big theme. Multiple zones, multiple platforms of Kubernetes clusters. I feel like you could mix your on-prem with your Azure or your AWS or your GKE. Like, and it's really starting to stabilize a lot of things. And so now we're getting into the big brain. Well, how do we make it super resilient in it? And that was the other theme. Sam, if you want to show your shirt and the guns, yeah, resilience realized.
Yeah, on the multi-cluster portion, yeah, it was a big topic. They have a new SIG, the Gateway API, which is Ingress v2. They talked about that. That's going to be releasing here soon. Very excited to see the functionality there. They have a whole tutorial put into the Kubernetes repos for the Gateway API if you want to play around with that.
That'd be a great strength.
Yeah.
Especially if we had a good Ingress scenario, which I think we have some good ones. So.
And since we're talking about a specific thing, my big takeaway on multi-cluster was they are working. Now, it's very early days here, but they are working on the CRDs, the operators, and the native Kubernetes objects that are going to be implemented into the API, namely cluster property as a CRD and the cluster set. And the idea here is that you could have a collection of clusters, and those clusters will have cluster properties in them, one being the cluster ID and the other being the cluster set ID. Those are both properties. And then those clusters can be joined to a cluster set, which then allows you to kind of create virtual clones, I guess you could say, of these clusters. So you would have, let's say, 4 clusters in this cluster set, and you deploy a web service to one of them. You create a pod, and then that pod has a service. And in these other clusters that are a part of the cluster set, they would have the same namespaces, but you don't have to deploy the pod to those other clusters because you would be able to use the multi-cluster API to create a virtual service. So anything that you deploy to these other clusters can reference that virtual service like it's native to the cluster, but in actuality, it'll be going out to the correct cluster that has the pod. So it's crazy.
That's crazy.
Very cool. I think the main, like a big use case of it is cloud resources, trying to, save costs. So now you can, if you have multiple clusters for various reasons, and you don't have to necessarily deploy all the same applications to all your clusters if you want to, come up with a fancy way of doing it. Fancy pants. That's my takeaway.
Yeah. No, I had that down too. And yeah, I mean, figuring out that work center for how to do DNS with multi-cluster, like that seems really good. Seems like the right place to put energy. So I was happy to see it.
For sure. What else you got?
Pod Tato. Got Pod Tato.
Oh, yeah.
It's a
I think
demo
I remember
app.
that.
Pod Tato, and I'm like, I'm gonna look into that. That might be a good stream.
Yeah.
Basically, it was like anything that I thought would work on this stream, I kind of wrote down. Pod Tato. I don't know what the app was for. Maybe it was maybe it's for multi-cluster. I don't know. But I got to check it out.
We just had a bunch of different deployment scenarios.
That could be. Yeah.
A bunch of YAMLs to deploy a simple thing.
Yeah.
Ways.
I thought Potato was like a tutorial or something.
Well,
we'll pull it up right now. How about that?
Pulling it up.
The GitHub. Podtato/Podtato. Podtato Head demonstrates cloud-native application delivery scenarios using many different tools and services. It is intended to help application delivery support teams test and decide which mechanisms to use.
It seems useful.
Very interesting.
I can kind of think of some use cases that certain clients that we have might benefit from that in their journey right now.
I think
that's a good one.
There's a lot of cool tools that were talked about, one of which was API clarity. Now, we brought our whole team, and half our team are closer to the web development side or to the web service development side. So they were pretty excited to see that API clarity, which I believe it's like an open source cloud native visibility tool, which utilizes a service mesh framework to capture and analyze API traffic and identify potential risks.
Wow.
Yeah.
By Cisco. I remember that.
Yep.
Well, I think it actually could generate the open API spec.
It can. Yep.
Which is pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. It can generate it, and then it can say, like, it can show the traffic that is coming in, and you have your API, and, maybe somebody starts pinging your endpoint with an extra parameter or whatever. It'll kind of show the drift of what people are calling compared to what you think your API spec is. Pretty useful.
Seems like it has some good security use cases and
yeah,
and just governance, API governance use cases right off the bat. Yeah.
Another thing I've written down is Crossing the Chasm. It's a book they referenced a lot. I want to read it. I've never seen it before, but I liked the reference or what they were referencing it for, which was, take it, McCracken.
Yeah, Crossing the Chasm is I learned it in business school. It's a thing with product adoption and it's basically any product adoption, I suppose, and they're applying it toward Kubernetes. There's always a bell curve of adoption, and in that bell curve, there tends to be this, or the way that they've written it, or whoever invented it. It's really easy to get the early adopters, but there's very few of them. And then, as time goes on, you get a few more early adopters, and then you get or maybe they're the bleeding edge people, and then you get the early adopter bit, and it's like, oh, okay, there's some of these people, but then time passes, and like nobody really jumps on the bandwagon because everybody's afraid to make a decision. Everybody's afraid, like, should we commit to this? And this spans all sorts of products in all sorts of industry, not just tech, but it happens to hold true everywhere, or the model is used everywhere. Let me put it that way. Maybe not holds true. And then once you cross that chasm, you get mass adoption by the not late adopters, but I forget what the middle section is. But then
majority, yeah,
lots of people start using it. And what I think what they were trying to communicate and I would say it matches our observation as professionals. Almost everybody's using Kubernetes now. Almost everybody's comfortable. Like, that's the one. There's not a lot of, well, I don't know if Kubernetes, Docker Swarm might still make a comeback. No. And so I forget the exact reference they were using across the chasm. I think it was just with Kubernetes. That's what it means. Because it's like even insurance companies and people are using fintechs and things that need to have super stable blah, 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 that hate change. They're using it, or they're getting on board. So there's my bad view of it. But that's what
it was great. That was exactly what I wanted. Sam, what do you got on your list?
Just as far as keynotes go, or in general?
Just in general. We've moved on to the what did you like? What sessions? What was the big things for you?
For me, like I mentioned, the security theme. So, I did my best to keep my head on straight. So I really only attended multi-cluster or security-related talks. And so a lot of the security-related talks were very interesting. So supply chain security, and then like bill of materials. And there's actually federal mandates by the government, US government, as far as where you need to be if they're going to use your software, but also it could be pushed out to just in general for US software in the US might have to follow standards that they're putting forward and starting to develop. So there was a lot of cool stuff on that. Put some links in the chat. Salsa, supply chain level security for artifacts, something like that. Salsa's a lot more memorable than the full thing, but Salsa, very cool. And then the software bill of materials, or SBOM, all those kind of stuff.
Did you go to anything about Falco?
No, but I remembered the name. Is that signing?
It is something it's something that stood out. I was reviewing some stuff earlier, and that's something that stood out in terms of it's a CNCF project, and it's in the security realm.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's one of the open source ones, and it's been something that I've been thinking about. And I know, I didn't focus on security necessarily. I went to different tracks. We'll talk about that later. But I was wondering if you heard about that in any of the things you went to. If anybody's talking about that.
Yep, I didn't see Falco specifically. Some of the big ones were in Toto, Recore. I just watched something today on cosign. I know Notary does signing as well. But basically, the thought is like throughout the whole software lifecycle, from the point a dev is touching the keyboard to you're running operations in production, there are so many different points where an attacker could inject something potentially. And the talk I listened to this morning, it was really interesting because they basically said, why these types of attacks like the SolarWinds attack are becoming more prevalent is because all the other security aspects are getting better. Like, we're getting better at securing a production Kubernetes cluster. So now really the only way is kind of get ahead of the chain of how you get code to production, and then it's you think you're running a trusted app.
The Trojan horse.
Of course, yes, right. Essentially, the Trojan horse of software attacks. Super interesting. Yeah. Yeah, and actually, so Salsa, I put it in there, salsa.dev. It's basically just a standard of like, hey, if you've done these things for security, you're level 1, and they have 4 levels. And I believe that like certain companies that verify like PCI compliance are going to be able to start certifying and like auditing on Salsa compliance as well. So definitely feels like it's going to be coming to enterprises. Maybe not, in the next year or two, but in the next 5 to 10 years, I feel like all enterprises are going to have those kind of standards to be compliant.
Yeah. On the security topic, I feel like you're talking about a lot of the overarching security stuff that's affecting, I feel like, our discipline as a whole. But the security stuff did definitely trickle through to the individual apps too. I went to the Helm SIG talk where like the actual Helm maintainers are talking, and I would say about 50% of that talk was about how they're working on making it easy to sign Helm charts with SigStore. But that was half the talk, is just like, yeah, with how prevalent Helm charts are and how they're being distributed, these things need to be signed and secure. It's very interesting. They also took a poll. They're like, hey, how many of you are signing your Helm charts today? One person raised their hand.
That's pretty sweet. Yeah, and one comment I had about the the government recommending it. It's a fantastic way. It's a fantastic way to get people to start doing it. The path of least resistance is usually the thing that's going to prevail. And by them stepping up and saying, you know what, you got to sign the stuff. You got to sign your stuff in order for us to buy it. Yeah, that's going to set enough of a trend. That'll set enough of a precedent. And people, nobody doesn't want less security. So, I mean, I think it's a pretty good move, and it's just going to need people like us to help sort through that. And I'm sure we'll get it down to a science, and there some good paths will open up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was interesting to hear that talk, that keynote. That was on the last day of the keynote where they had the government security guy. He was pretty funny.
Yeah.
But I like that talk. Yeah.
Yeah. The conference as a whole, we didn't talk about COVID really in terms of the conference.
Did you?
At least not too much. No, I did not. I am going to say that they did a wonderful job planning this conference. It was difficult to wear a mask basically 24/7. It was difficult. My ears were hurting. Like, I don't mind wearing a mask. I can breathe. I don't have glasses. I felt bad for a lot of glasses wearers because I would see their glasses fog up, and that sucks. So I didn't have too much of a problem other than how long you have that strap on your ear. But I thought they did a really good job maintaining a conference feel while also keeping everybody safe. I was pretty impressed. So kudos to the planning committee.
And honestly, it made it more comfortable in a lot of ways.
Yeah. There was more space, less people. I feel like vendors were less on the prowl, if you will.
Food was good.
Food was good for grab and go options. It was good food.
I liked the vendor interaction. I liked how the booths were way spaced.
Yep.
They had to like that better. I mean, almost every booth basically had enough space to have tons of people around. And normally you're crammed in there and you can only have 2 people in front of your booth. The small guys, which, we're going to be one of the small guys eventually. Hopefully we get a nice, huge area. Small table, but like you get a massive space. It's a ton of value. Because then you just need some booth babes. We got them. Done. Just saying.
And also the after party was pretty cool too.
Mikita's our booth babe, in case anybody's wondering.
Bunny ears. No, the after party was cool too. It was a little disappointing. A big part of going to one of these conferences in person is the ability to network. And a lot of times at these after parties, they have signs or different sections that say, hey, if you're interested in this topic, go here, talk to these people. And it gives you a reason to talk to those people. This after party, it was very cool. It was in the Xbox, Microsoft Xbox Stadium Zone. I don't know. It was just kind of like a open courtyard between buildings that they blocked off. Still, very cool area. Music, lots of food. It was very, very nice party thing. That being said, everybody had masks on. You didn't know who was who or who was interested in what, so you ended up kind of just sticking with your own group, because it was very hard just to walk up to somebody with masks on and just be like, hey, who are you? So that was just a little bit disappointing from just a networking perspective. I can't really come up with a way to have fixed that, though, so I think it's just the times we're living in right now. They also allowed us to go to the Grammy Museum. I loved that. That was awesome. What did you guys think?
I love Motown. Not as much as you. I mean, my God. But it was cool.
I've been on a Motown kick ever since then. Like, I've been listening to Stevie Wonder, to some Ray Charles, Smokey Robinson.
I didn't really know Smokey Robinson much. And then I went to the Grammy Museum, come to find out. I never really listened to much Smokey at all. So that's what I learned at KubeCon. Sam, I don't know.
It was great.
More of an Elvis fan.
Mikita. Yeah, right.
Love Elvis.
I grew up around Motown, though. I love it. Oh, yeah, big news. Speaking of Motown, KubeCon 2022 is in our backyard, Detroit, Michigan. How cool is that?
I think we live in a simulation. That's the only explanation I have.
Yeah, no, it's going to be really cool. I'm in the Matrix. I'm pretty excited to see that. We're going to actually try, because we are a local certified Kubernetes service provider. We are going to try to be involved in that conference in one way or another, in terms of planning or having a booth or something. I don't know. We're going to do something. Hopefully we can be a part of planning. That would be really cool. Only other thing I want personally to say is shout out to Shipa. We made some really good connections with a very cool company called Shipa. Have a really cool product that they're putting together. I think we're going to try to possibly either interview them or demo their product on stream in the coming weeks or months. And yeah, kudos to them. They took us out to a really cool after party. Very nice people. They got some big ideas, big brains. Very excited. Actually talking to them. Actually, I don't know. I don't know what I can and cannot say. So I'm just going to say they were very cool people. They have a good product, and they have a lot of support backing it. So I'm pretty excited to see what they come up with.
And at least one really smart person who we know works there. So that was cool. Yeah, I definitely want to demo this on stream. You know, we've been hearing about it because we knew somebody that eventually works there, and but they like a lot of stuff. So I mean, you know, we need to try it out. Try it before you buy it, kind of thing. And I think you can try it for free. Turns out you can start for free. Shipa.io. Take a peek. Future stream.
That's all I got, guys. I'm out of my notes. I did take a lot of notes. I'm kind of condensing here because you don't want to go into the details of a whole bunch of like Helm lifecycle stuff. That's a separate stream. So for me, I loved the conference. I thought it was really fun. I was exhausted by the time we got done and was excited to come home.
It was really nice talking to the Pinniped people too. I talked to Margot, and you asked a question to the other gentleman. They were really cool. That was really nice. Pinniped is Kubernetes auth, and it's built in a way that circumvents you having to modify the control plane. Pretty good stuff. That was a highlight. I loved that interaction. I did a lot of stuff with Argo, a lot of GitOps, and Rook Ceph. I learned a lot. Lots of stuff. Again, future stream stuff. I think I'm going to completely change my stream for Rook. Maybe I'll do two. Maybe I'll do a persistent storage, just Rook with Raspberry Pis and USB sticks as our volume media, and another one with Rook using PVCs as the base of PVCs with local storage as the base for your Ceph cluster. Blew my mind. It's probably right in the docs, but I needed to go to KubeCon in Los Angeles too. That was a thing.
Well, don't forget the Rook is, I mean, I don't know why I said that, but Rook is, that's a deep topic. You're crossing some major bounds and what I would consider a different discipline altogether.
There's a lot of bits. It moves a lot of bits, and it's a big website. They do a great job at documentation. I was really hoping that Travis, I think Nielsen, was going to do a talk. There was another contributor that did the talk. Fantastic content. They have a great community. It is definitely a discipline of its own to do persistence. Absolutely.
Yeah. So something you said, one thing kind of one of the themes of opening up to the community and like trying to bring people in.
Uh-huh.
I feel like maybe that was demystified a little bit for me. Like anyone can get involved in anything, and there are so many different entry points if you want to get involved. Like if you're a developer, or if you're operations, or if you're a technical writer or a tester, or you're in marketing. Like there are so many different ways. We'll have to link to, I think it's slack.cncf.io. There's the Kubernetes Slack, but there are just so many helpful people out there that are willing to take some time and like point you in the right direction. Obviously, we'll do our best if you want to talk with us, but there's just such a huge welcoming community, and it was just really cool to see that.
Absolutely. And the other theme, I think Mikita hit on this in his opening pitch. The big theme was sustainability. There was a little bit of a passing, not crossing of the guard, but their focus is on, okay, cool. We had great growth. We've got great adoption. We crossed the chasm. How do we maintain? And that is, we need people. We need volunteers, and we need not volunteers, but we need companies to hire people and then allow those people to contribute to open source on staff, on payroll. It was a big gauntlet they threw down. I loved it because, Mikita and I, we have talked about this for a long time. Wouldn't it make sense if you would do that? Like, we could help our enterprises by not forking that code.
Right.
You hate to see it when you have to fork. Just put it back. We take so much, give a little bit. We're gonna do it one way or the other. So I loved it. I thought that was a great pitch.
I agree. I was gonna expand upon that, but it doesn't need to be expanded upon. I think you covered it quite fully. So, anything else, guys? I'm out. I think that was it.
I just want to say kudos to LeBlanc. No first names, no doxing. LeBlanc, Nguyen or Win. I forget how somebody butchered his name recently. Anyway, you know who you are. And someone else, I think we can talk about somebody else. I won't even mention him. But, kudos. They are the rest of our team. This was their first KubeCon. They did pretty damn good. They took in a lot of info from the fire hose. Like us three, we've been there twice, or at least Velocity and KubeCon. We've done this a couple times. This type of information dump, I'm used to it. I had a great time. I never had a headache at these ones. I always used to get it. I used to get a headache at the end of the day. Didn't. And I know they did, because it's a lot. But they had some really good takeaways, and I'm looking forward to future streams and looking forward to collaborating with them on things that they picked up. So I don't want to spoil any of those pieces of thunder, but I just want to say kudos to them. And man, I had a great trip. It definitely exceeded my expectations at how much fun it was. We knew it was gonna be fun, but I was trying not to get super hyped, and it was awesome. And we peaked early, and then it was just a nice trip. So I loved it.
Cool. Yeah. I'm glad everyone had a good time. If people have questions, you can, until we get our Discord server up, you could always email us at hello@devsoperative.com. But soon we will have a Discord server for people to join and ask questions to as well. Any last words before we end the stream, boys?
Thank you to the CNCF for putting this on. Looking forward to the next year. Please reach out to us. We'll help you for free.
All right. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful Wednesday afternoon, and we're out. Peace.
See ya.